So welcome back. Now we will see presentations on two other GSIM groups. The first group, business group, plays an important role in harmonizing and standardizing various statistical programs and activities. This presentation will be given by Essi Kaukonen and Giorgia Simeoni. Essi is working as a senior planner in the Standards and Method Department at Statistics Finland. Supporting the use of GSIM and other international standards in Statistics Finland is one of her main interests. Giorgia is a researcher at Istat, the Italian National Statistical Institute, and is responsible for methods and tools for reference metadata documentation and communication, including the Istat metadata system for reference metadata and quality documentation of a statistical process, CD and SQL. She is currently working in the system redesign using GSIM as a reference framework. So, Essie and Georgia, go ahead when you are ready.
Thank you, In-kyung. I will share my screen. Okay. So thank you and good afternoon from cloudy Rome. Let's start our presentation on the business group that I will share with Essi. First of all, the business group is one of the less known and probably still less implemented groups of GSIM together with the exchange group. However, it could be very useful and it includes the information objects that are needed to link GSIM with the wide-known SBPM. Indeed, the business group is used to capture the designs and plans of statistical programs and the processes undertaken to deliver those programs. GSIM does not only provide the information objects to represent data and metadata that can be the input and the output of statistical processes, but also includes the information objects useful to model the process itself with its process steps and business functions and process methods, as we will see in the rest of this presentation. In particular, we will present this subset of the information objects of the business group, 12 information objects out of 31 of the group, and we will present them organized in 3 subgroups, trying to provide you with a general overview of the potentiality of the business group. So let's start. This is the first subgroup. Well, I simplified the relationships between the concepts to be more easy to present to a wide public. Trying to start with the beginning, our statistical activities in the national statistical agencies are, or at least should be, implemented to fulfill user needs. So an organization receives a statistical need and produces an approved business case. The business case will specify either a new statistical program being created or a change to the design or methodology of an existing statistical program. In any case, a new statistical program design will be produced. One or more statistical program cycles will be then carried out implementing such statistical program design. Each statistical program cycle will include several business processes. Let's now analyze in more detail the meaning of these information objects. So, statistical need. The statistical need is defined as a requirement, request, or other notification that will be considered by an organization. A statistical need does not necessarily have a structure or format. It is a raw need as received by the organization. A statistical need may be of a variety of types, including environmental exchange or information request. So, the statistical need is a proposed or imposed requirement, request, or other notification as it has been received by an organization. A statistical need is a raw expression of a requirement, and it is not necessarily well-defined. In the case the statistical need is not well-defined or structured, there is also another GSIM-related information object, the change definition. That should be considered. Change definition is created when a statistical need is analyzed by an organization. Change definition expresses the raw need in a well-defined and structured terms. An example of statistical need is a new European regulation that requires to carry on a specific survey or to produce a specific statistical indicator. In this case, the statistical need is already well defined, but should the same be analyzed by the organization? In the example, we have the Commission Regulation number 41 of 2013 on community statistics on public health, based on the European Health Interview Survey. In some cases, the statistical need can also result from the assessment of the quality, efficiency, or other things from an existing process. A statistical need can also be the request to reduce costs to produce a particular statistical information or to improve the quality of an estimate. Let's go to the business case. As mentioned and describing the picture, the statistical needs initiates the business case. The business case is defined as a proposal for body work that will deliver outputs designed to achieve outcomes. A business case will provide the reasoning for undertaking a statistical support program to initiate a new statistical program design for an existing statistical program, or an entirely new statistical program as well as the details of the change proposed. So once the statistical need has been analyzed by the organization, a business case is produced. It sets out a plan for how the change definition can be achieved. A business case usually comprises various evaluations. The business case will specify stakeholders and other information needed for the implementation. Concerning the example in which the statistical need was the European regulation, the business case could correspond to a document proposing to launch a new survey to implement the regulation. In case the statistical need is to reduce cost or to improve the accuracy, the business case could be the proposal to substitute or integrate a survey with the use of administrative data. Usually, the business case is subject to approval from management. Let's go to the statistical program. The business case could propose to initiate a statistical program. A statistical program is defined as a set of activities which may be repeated that describes the purpose and context of a set of business process within the context of the relevant statistical program cycles. So the statistical program is the central information object among the ones presented in the picture at the beginning. Indeed, the statistical program is the top-level object that describes the purpose and objectives of a set of activities. Although the definition is quite abstract and generic, the statistical program in practice corresponds to an ongoing activity such as a survey. Some examples of statistical program are a labor force survey or the multipurpose household survey and so on. In our previous example, the statistical program corresponds to the European Health Interview Survey. Then, the statistical program uses a statistical program design that is based on the business case, so all the elements are connected. The statistical program design is defined as the specification of the resources required, processes used, and description of relevant methodological information about the set of activities undertaken to investigate characteristics of a given population. There could be more than one statistical program design related to a single statistical program. A simple example is where a statistical program relates to a single survey, for example, the labor force survey. The statistical program will have a series of statistical program design objects that describe the methodology and design used throughout the life of the survey. When a methodological change is made to the survey, a new statistical program design is created to record the details of a new design. Concerning the example on the European Health Interview Survey, the description of the sampling design adopted by the European Health Interview Survey could be a statistical program design. For example, two-stage element sampling with stratification of primary sampling units with municipalities as primary sampling units and households as elementary sampling units, etc. In the example in which the business case proposed to integrate the survey data with administrative data, the statistical program design could be the description of the new data source and the description of the methodology to make the integration between the two data sources. Let's go to the statistical program cycle. The statistical program has one or more statistical program cycles that implement the statistical program designs. The statistical program cycle is defined as a set of activities to investigate characteristics of a given population for a particular reference period. The statistical program cycle documents the execution of an iteration of a statistical program according to the associated statistical program design for a certain reference period. It corresponds to the concept of the edition of a statistical program, for example, the 2015 edition of the European Health Interview Survey. It is a simple but fundamental object because methods and tools used in statistical programs change over time, and the statistical program cycle permits to identify what is actually implemented in the different cycles. A statistical program cycle includes one or more business processes. The business process is defined as the set of process steps to perform one or more business functions to deliver statistical program cycle or statistical subtool program. So the business process definition links us directly to information objects like process steps and business function that will be described in the next subgroup by my colleague Essi. Let's try to understand what is meant by GSIM business process with the explanatory text. A particular statistical program cycle might include several data collection activities, the corresponding editing activities for each collection, and the production and dissemination of file and outputs. Each of these may be considered separate business processes and for the statistical program cycle. Consequently, an example of business process could be the set of activities needed to collect the data for the 2015 edition of the European Health Interview Survey. And now I give the floor to my colleague Essi from Statistics Finland. Please.
Thank you, Giorgia. Here, three information objects which Giorgia already mentioned are described. So the business process consists of usually several, and the business process performs a business function, possibly via business services. On the next slide, we have the description of the process step, which is a package that performs a business process. And which is good to note is that a process step contains of sub-steps, which in turn can contain of several sub-steps, and so on. And it's the process designer who decides how deep he will be diving. And here I would also like to mention that a process step in GSIM terms corresponds to TSP-PM phase. It also corresponds to TSP-PM subprocess or any other level lower than that. Next, business function is described. Business function is the core issue. It's the one that delivers added value from business point of view. It can be, for example, review, validate, and edit, or impute, or at a low level, identify and address outliers. On the next slide, we go back to Jenny's introduction in the morning. So in the middle, we have one process step. This is the TSP-PM subprocess. And decided, we have the process input and process output. As Jenny mentioned, GSIM and GSPPM can be used separately or together. But if we use them together, and when we describe the input and output elements as GSIM information object, we can design our processes coherently, and at a lower level, this can even support coherent metadata-driven automation of our processes. We'll have a short look at the output then. On the next slide, the process output is described. So it's any instance of an information object which is produced by a process step, as was described already in the picture. And on the next slide, we see the categories of process output. So there are several types of process outputs, but the main one is the transformed output. This is the core one. So the derived variable or modified dataset or transformed data structure is part of this category. The process metric is also kind of process output. And out of this process metric, for the quality indicators can be calculated. The last one is a more technical process execution block. To sum up, the transport output is the reason for existence. The core one and process metric can be used to measure and record something that has been happening during the process step execution. 31 information objects. Out of them, we described here shortly 12. But I could say that this business group, as Giorgia already mentioned, is really important because it includes the information objects related to statistical program designing and planning, and it also includes information objects used in planning, execution, and evaluation of our statistical processes.